I'll say, hello, my name is John Cornicello, and I welcome you to my series of interactive voter conversations. You can check the schedule at cornicello.com conversations for the dates and times of upcoming shows and to links to previous. My guest today is Don Giannatti. Don is a photographer, creative director, educator, and mentor. We got him off his motorcycle today to talk with us, so please welcome Don Giannatti.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Sure, how are you doing today?
Good. Very good. And you, sir?
I can't complain too much. Doesn't get me anywhere, you know?
No, no one
Uh,
cares.
yeah, so let's start with, it's been a rough year for most of us. What gets you up out of bed now and motivated to go out and make images?
Well, I'll tell you, and it's probably going to sound really weird, but it's a little bit of advice I got from Gary Vaynerchuk when he was asked, say something really motivational to a young woman a young woman was about 30. She said, say something really motivational. And Gary looked at her and said, "You're going to die." Um, when you're 25, that probably kind of striking. When you're 72, it's like, oh yeah, probably. And so yeah, I got a lot to do. I'm up out of bed every day at 4:30, and I make something every day. Every day. I've never retired because I've only ever been self-employed, and so I'm constantly doing little things. I did sort of retire from commercial photography when I had a thingy in my leg that I had to cut out, and I couldn't stand on my feet for any time at all. So I had to let the studio go, but I'm better now. So I can go hiking and stuff like that. But I don't think it's something I want to go back into. I'm really at this point in my life, I'm really enjoying working with photographers who want to get in the business, or photographers who are in the business who don't understand how it's changed, and it has changed so drastically. It's just unbelievable. um, and I work with mostly older folks too, John. You know that I don't work
Uh-huh.
with young people. um, well, there's a
What's your
reason for that
cutoff
too.
age?
The young people actually know everything about everything. All you just ask them, they'll tell you. They know it all. So I let them go off and do their thing, and I deal with people who know that we don't know everything. So nor do
Yeah,
we
do
ever
you
know.
have some visual exercises that you keep going through?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, you inadvertently plugged my new book, which is 30 exercises for
Wow.
visual creators. But yeah, there's one that I do on the motorcycle because of my circulation issue. I have to get off the bike every hour. So I set my alarm, but I give myself 2 minutes to make a photograph. Make a photograph, not just stand there and take a shot of the road, but make a photograph. I kind of think that there's photographs in front of us all day long. I don't care if you're sitting in your office right now, there's a photograph in front of you. You just can't see it because of the context of the fact that it's your office. If you walked into somebody else's office, you'd see that photograph. And if I walked into your office, I'd see that photograph. But your context is, this is my office. So there's photographs literally everywhere that you can take. And so that's one that I do. And another is I photograph around my house a lot, my succulent garden and stuff. But
Hmm.
I try to make, I try to make photographs every day, every day.
Great. Yep. Same here. Same here. For people who don't know, you're in Phoenix.
Yes, Phoenix, Arizona.
And how did you end up in Phoenix? Because I know you spent some time on the East Coast and a
I
few other
was born
places.
here. Born here. When I got to, I was 28. My wife and I moved to LA. We were in LA for a couple of years. I had a big studio on Melrose before Melrose was Melrose.
Hmm.
It was just a road then. Um, and some nice people of West Hollywood there decided to liberate me from all of my earthly possessions, and the studio was totally ripped off. I moved back to Phoenix and started doing stuff here. Uh, Moved to New York for off and on. I go to New York for 2 weeks, come back for 2 weeks, go to New York. I shared an apartment with another photographer, did the same thing. So I would be there for 2 weeks and he'd be there for 2 weeks. And got my business going in New York. had kids, decided I didn't want to raise them in New York. So I just stuck around in Phoenix and started shooting towels and garage door openers and bar S weenies and pretty much everything that came into the studio.
So you also ran a design or advertising agency?
I got tired of being a bank for ad agencies. Ad agencies in Phoenix, small ad agencies with their, well, they were all small at the time. In fact, they're still all pretty small. Their thing was you'd send them an invoice for the job and then you'd call them 30 days later and they'd say, oh, we must have lost the invoice, send it again. And, it'd be, then they moved to 60-day payments. Then they moved to 90-day payments. And I started feeling like a bank. And then there was a bright August morning when I had over probably 85,000 in receivables and $603 in the bank. And we couldn't go on vacation. And I said, screw this. I'm not doing this anymore. People are, oh, well, factor it. If you factor once, you'll factor forever, and then you don't make any money. So I said, screw it. I'm gonna go out and do my own ad agency. I'd seen what the ad agencies in Phoenix had been doing with my work, and they were pretty piss poor at it. So I just made up some flyers, went to an industrial park, walked around the industrial park right there in my neighborhood where my studio was. Told people I did product photography for product shoots, for what do you call it? Tech papers and all that kind of stuff. I came back with 3 assignments and started my own ad agency. And we were by 2000, we were the 3rd largest agency by billing in Phoenix, in Arizona, actually. We had clients all over the world. I was creative director and partner, and I brought in a business partner who was a guy that, understood stuff like, taxes and shit. You don't want to do that with my knowledge of that stuff. So I brought in somebody like that. He was a partner, and we rocked and rolled, man, for about 8 years.
Yeah, that's the way I did it here. My wife had an accounting background, so she did the business and the tax side of things. And when COVID hit last year, she decided that she wanted to retire. So she closed the business and fired me.
Yeah, there you go.
So now I'm just having fun doing photos for myself, which sounds like you're doing too.
Yeah. Basically, yeah, sort of started doing what I always wanted to do back in the day. For 10 years, John, I probably only shot a handful of pictures for myself, other than my daughter, my youngest or my oldest daughter. During that period, I didn't photograph for me. The studio was literally 7 days a week. I mean, it was damn near not a weekend that I wasn't. We were there every Saturday, even if it was only to clean up from the preceding week. We were there on Sunday getting ready for Monday. And then we would have stuff on pallets where, all the towels from Nordstrom's and all the wardrobe that we did for pennies or diamonds, all these places that aren't even around anymore, Goldwater's. And it was just on and on and on. I was mostly fashion and beauty at the time, for whatever fashion is in Phoenix, Arizona, anyway.
Yeah.
Not much, mostly off the rack crap from Nordstrom's. But that's what paid the bills. And I just, didn't do it. Now I have an opportunity to do what I want to do. And I'm kind of doing that. I'm playing with alternative processes. One thing I did not get rid of my 8x10. So now I'm shooting paper in the 8x10, load the holder with paper, make the photograph, you end up with a negative, which you can reverse print if you want, make a paper negative. It's really lovely. It's got a nice patina to it. And I use my beautiful Durst enlarger with making these things. I don't put negatives in anymore. The other thing I do is photograph the paper with the digital camera and reverse it in Photoshop and go there. But that's a lot of fun, an awful lot of fun. And 10 type, playing with 10 type.
Get a lot of light for the 10 types. What are you lighting that with? What are you lighting the 10 types with?
Well, out here in Phoenix, we have something that you guys aren't, well, you guys are more familiar with. We have called bright sunshine. And there's a lot of bright sunshine out in the front. And been photographing the succulents and the cactus. But if I'm shooting people, I've got 12,000 watt seconds of pro photo strobes.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, if people want to ask questions,
Painful.
please type in the chat or unmute yourself and feel free to join in and talk with us. So you're doing a lot of mentoring too. You have your 52
Yes.
group.
Project 52, yeah, we take 12 people at a time. I do 2 openings a year. That's it. So just 24 people. And that way I get to know them and get to help them. And I have some one-on-one mentoring where I work with people as well. I'm kind of a combined, I guess, kind of a leader and a butt kicker. Because if there's anything that photographers need, it's somebody to kick their butt. I talked to a photographer who was complaining he didn't have any work. I said, "Well, show me your new stuff." He said, "Well, I haven't shot any new stuff." I said, "Well, let's start with why you're not working. I think I know why. You know, if you're not excited enough to make photographs, I'm not sure you can get somebody else excited enough to hire you. You know what I'm saying?" So when
Yep.
when you see some of these young kids, John, do you follow some of the younger, like Sam Elkins and those that group?
No, not really. I don't know.
They're fun to watch. I mean, John, it's going to remind you of being the first time you got a camera. Okay, 25 years old, they got a camera, and they're out making photographs, and they're photographing literally every damn thing that comes in front of their camera. And sometimes you sit and they do these image reviews, and they show you their images, and there are times when you find yourself going, you know, just because it was shot on a 6x7 film camera does not make it a good photograph. You know, snapshots and stuff like that. But you know what rubs through is the enthusiasm. Good for them. If they're doing that, but good for them. The enthusiasm, it'll rub off on you. You know,
Cool.
The goal is to shoot. The goal should be to shoot 20 to 25 pictures a day. That should be the goal. 20 to 25 pictures a day. Huh?
Your old roll of film, 24 exposures.
Yeah, exactly. Did you ever ask yourself how the hell we afforded to do that? I swear to God, I don't know. Man, oh man.
That film wasn't that expensive. If you shot slides, Ektachrome or Kodachrome, maybe it was $10 for a roll in processing back then.
Yeah.
So I remember when I got my first digital camera and the body was like $3,000. I figure, well, it's 3,000 divided by 10 is how many rolls of film it would have bought.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely. I had several years in a row where my lab fees, my accountant, my lab fees here for film and processing, we bought our Polaroid there, but lab fees were 150 grand.
Wow.
So I'm film and processing.
Were you buying 8x10 Polaroid?
I rented 8x10. I didn't buy the unit, but I bought. Yeah, we shot. Oh God, thousands of sheets 8x10 Polaroid. Yep, it was expensive. Absolutely was. And it was, you know, and then you'd look and the art director would go, could we move that tomato a little bit to the left? And I'm thinking, yeah, that'll make a big difference, you freaking idiot. And we'd do that. And then we'd shoot, 4 sheets of film times 2, you know, insurance, you have 4 sheets bracketed and 4 sheets bracketed that you didn't send to the lab, that you held on to. So on and on and on, man. It was heady. Well, a sheet of 8x10 now is $34. Shoot it.
Yeah, that's good. So Anya's asking how to get into your your 52 Project 52 group.
How to get into it?
Yeah, how do you accept people?
It's at project52prosystem.com. There's a lot of stuff there for it. It's we get everybody work. Anybody who wants a job in photography, wants to work in photography. I'll tell you right now, make 3 contacts a day, Monday through Friday. And it's 1st of August right now. By September, you'll have a job. Okay. A job. May not be a big job, but you'll have a job. Make 3. That's either 3 emails, 2 postcards and an email, 1 phone call, 2 postcards, 1 phone call, 1 postcard, 1 email, 3 a day. If you do 3 a day, you're so far ahead of the competition, you can't even see them coming around the track behind you. I talked to a photographer I talked to photographers who are in business and they don't do it. it's so much easier to go on Facebook and complain about how there's no business. No, it's out there. There's a young lady that I worked with one-on-one named Judy Doherty. Judy came to me 2 years ago and was shooting for, and I don't know this for a fact, but it was one of those food delivery things, Uber Eats, or you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She was shooting for them, and they would hole her up in a hotel. When I first talked to her, she was in a hotel in Chicago, and she would shoot 10 or 11 hours a day. They just put it in front of her, she'd shoot it, and she'd shoot it, and she'd shoot it. And I think she was getting like, I don't know, $8 a shot or $11 a shot. Go up and check her website out now, judydohertyphotography.com, judydohertyphotography.com, and see where she is today. Today, she's
Nice.
shooting for major brands. She's really busy. She's literally booked through August and half of September. And she did it because she absolutely put her nose to the grind wheel and photographed. She did 25 to 30 shots a day. The entire time that I worked with her for, we did a 6-month mentoring thing. And that entire time we rebuilt her portfolio 4 times.
Nice. So Anya's saying that she's starting grad school in photography in this fall, and she's eager to learn everything about the business side, which is unfortunately not always taught in the schools.
Who is this now?
Anya Brown. Anya, if you want to unmute
Yeah.
and say hi.
Anya, have you really thought through graduate school for photography?
I don't know if she has a mic. There she is.
Yay! Hi.
Hi.
Actually, what the whole photography school thing is happened after my graduation from the art school, and for one of my teacher advised me pursue photography, and if I can go for the MFA. I didn't think of anything, to be honest. I just hey, okay.
Let me ask you this. This is a personal financial question. Are you going into debt to go to school?
Well, yeah.
Don't say anything else. I would absolutely implore you not to do that.
Okay.
Because what you're going to do, Anya, is you're going to get a degree that no one's ever going to care about.
That's
I've
not
been
true.
doing this business
That's
my
not
Jack's got-
whole.
That's
Yeah,
not true at
well,
all.
part
What's
of
that?
me actually
Not true at all.
expecting
What's that,
maybe
Jack?
in the future I can teach with the MFA. So
Yeah, you
without
can
MFA,
teach. Yeah.
so that's why I'm kind of thinking about doing MFA, or the other hand, of course, I want to have the photography related steady job.
Well, if you're going to go into photography,
Yeah, Jack, I'll give you wait
yeah,
one
go ahead,
second.
Jack.
Yeah, I teach graduate students at SVA, and my class happens to be the business of photography. And this is one that Katrine Eisman started this course about 12, 13 years ago. And I got to tell you, we've had a lot of successful people getting out of school. If you're going to teach at all, you have to have a graduate degree. One of my friends who was a great commercial photographer in New York, Jim Porto, he went through a graduate program. He's teaching now at RIT. But a lot of my students have done very well.
That's where I got a
in
scholarship.
I'm sorry?
That's RIT is one of the school gave me a scholarship. I haven't decided yet. So I also got scholarship from Leslie. So I haven't decided which one I'm pursuing yet.
Yeah, it's RIT was where I graduated. I got my bachelor's degree there back in the 70s. But I will say a graduate degree will open up doors for you. And there's a lot of people I know, my graduate students are doing good commercially. They're doing good in fine art and teaching if they want to go into teaching. So I wouldn't say that it's a worthless degree by any stretch these days.
Well, to be honest, I don't know for what I'm expecting. So for one option always they kept in my back in my head is that if I'm the teaching option, because I'm from Mongolia and the alternative process never existed in my country. So someday I'm hoping go back to my country and teach the Mongolian youth about the teen type. That I bet that if 99% of Mongolian never seen what teen type is. So that's actually one of my dreams. But in between, for while I'm in US, of course, I want to land into some kind of job that if I can support myself and like, camera equipment and whole thing, pay piles up.
The one thing I agree with Donald, though, is don't go far into debt.
Okay.
Watch your money, see what the scholarships are. But I agree with Donald on that. I would not go deep into debt unless you can absolutely afford it. But I think graduate school does open up doors.
Back when I could have gone to graduate school for photography, it would have cost me maybe $8,000. And now I'm meeting kids who are $160,000 in debt coming out. And to Jack's point, I think a lot of them do well, but there are a lot of them who don't.
Yeah. Well, and
you know what it depends on? How motivated are you to take what you learn at school and go out and do it? How motivated are you?
Yeah.
Because if you're not motivated, whether you have a degree or not, it's a really, really hard thing to do.
Okay, so
I would like to
ask you a question. So what would be the definition difference between motivation and addiction?
Oh, addiction's good. That'll work.
So the photography is now my absolute addiction. I can't turn back. But it's particularly the alternative process photography.
But just make sure that the school that you choose has a really good track record. Do some research. Make sure it's got a good business part of it.
Yeah.
I spent time assisting people from Art Center. That was a big school in California. And those kids came out really knowing their stuff. They knew about business, they knew about portfolios, they knew how to, because they came out with a commercial photographer's degree. When I was working at ASU, lecturing at ASU, I had graduate students who were doing such, I guess, postmodern work, where one guy went out and laid down and a person drew a chalk around him, and then he took a picture of the chalk outline, a beautiful photograph, tonally correct and everything, of a chalk outline, entitled it Chalk Outline ASU 1972 or whatever it was. I was like, wow, that's just not going to get you very far, guys. Not. So.
Yeah. Well,
know what you want to do and then zero in on it.
Yeah.
Well, what's that debt load?
Yeah, everything I've been doing the past 5 years, it's just adds up to the school tuition fee and the school supply materials. So it gradually started making me think of if I have to make a money, because I'm zero on the money making side with the photography. So that's where I would like to come to the 52 project. If you teach the business sides.
It's all business. It's what I basically wanted to do is being a photographer is an experience. And when I got into it, the way that I got into it is I fell in love with photography, addicted, and I wanted to do something. And the way you did it was you assisted. So I got a job assisting a photographer in Phoenix, and I moved to LA and I assisted photographers in LA. And that's how you learn the tricks of the trade, basically, how to run a set, how to deal with art directors, how to pitch jobs, how we handle all that stuff. Well, that's gone for a lot of people.
That's what I would like to learn, because when I hear from Mr. Cornicella's conversation, some of the photographers talk about the industry. It's like at the school, they don't mention any of this. So my husband sometimes joked that honey, you learn how to spend money. Now it's time to learn how to make money.
Yeah. So I try to roll it into a holistic thing. So we give them you get real world assignments, not like, shoot leading lines or make everything red or any of those things. It's like shoot an ad for these, boxes of cereal, which is harder to do than you think, right? But I also have them this week. One of their assignments is to shoot a picture, faux ad for a coffee shop. But they actually have to go out to a coffee shop and ask to do a picture for that coffee shop. So right off the bat, I'm getting them. Yes, they're thinking about photography, but they're also thinking about how do I get clients? So we mesh the two things together. And then I try to serve as the photographer who they would be assisting under, to give them all the little extra things that go along with it. Been very successful. You just check it out. There's a lot of people there that have been to the course. And I told John I didn't want to come on and be an advertisement for my class at all. So, but yeah, check it out. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah, Jim's asking a question I'm not sure if we can answer here, but he's saying a lot of fields are graduating people with degrees, undergrad and grad, in much greater numbers than their available jobs, such as anthropology. Is that what's happening in photography too? And I think it used to be, at least when we had Brooks and RIT and design school, LA Art School and the like. There's many more people coming out, but photography is a thing where, you're going to be self-employed most of the time. So it's hard to really say.
It's very hard to say, because everything that depends on whether you're going to make it or not is really in you. If you come out with a degree in material management, you go get a job. That degree will open that door. You get a job, material management of a hospital or construction company. That's your job. You get better at it. You move up the pay scale, et cetera, et cetera. This is, there's no, what's one person's great photograph is another person's garbage. So it's all, it's up to you to push it.
When I went to RIT, I went to their photo engineering program. So when I finished after 4 years, I had several companies waiting in line offering me salary jobs. But my friends in pro photo and in photo illustration did not come out with the same kind of situation.
Yep.
Thank you. I will check into your website then.
Yep.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yep.
The other folks have questions for Don. It doesn't have to be about Project 52. It could be about getting work and just visual exercises. And what do you do for each of you? Such a quiet crowd today.
Hey, Don.
Hey, it's Jeff Shuey.
Oh gosh, I'm such a fan. I've been a fan since Workbook, man.
Oh, thank you. You have excellent taste.
Yes, I know.
So I'm just coming out of a PT session, and it pissed me off because when I found out that you were here on Monday, it's like, oh, damn. But I'll go back and check the recording to see the front part. I don't know what you, but let me ask, you did spend time in Chicago as a photographer, correct?
Yes.
All right. Did we know each other in the 80s?
We met briefly, and I'm trying to remember the studio. It was a new studio. A new photographer was doing a studio opening, and I met you there. But it was just basically a handshake and how you doing, that type of thing.
What year was that?
Okay. What year was that? I think it was before
the
Canvas.
80s, late 80s.
Yeah.
Because I think 1980, I spent the summer in Chicago, moving a catalog studio from New York to Chicago.
I think I remember that studio coming into Chicago and all the Chicago people being pissed off. But
yeah, it was NZS. And
Yeah.
NZS was the name of it, and they were competitors to Cranston, and I forgot what the other big Chicago studio
well,
was.
Cranston was the big one. But I worked at a place called Maselli Studios, which basically was it was a Sears catalog supplier, a photography supplier. We didn't get the big stuff like Cranston, but all I remember is working and shooting for Sears, and one of the partners was a former account exec at Sears, and we knew the fucking merchandise was wrong, but they said, go ahead and shoot it. We get and leave it up. We'll get paid for a reshoot. And there were times when I did that 2, 3, 4 times, and that kind of intentional kind of, bullshit is what led me to get out of catalog photography. But the thing I was going to say, Stephen Shore mentioned RIT. I graduated from RIT, and the education helped me enormously. The degree didn't do much of anything for me because what people were looking for is, you got a degree. Show me your portfolio. And good work will always win out. And it's hard to say to a lot of people, your work is just not good enough. But I think particularly in the photo education, I mean, you can be a fine art photographer if you've got a lot of, personal wealth that you can spend. The funny thing is, how do you become a successful photographer? Well, first off, start out with $1 million, and then then you can be successful. But the other thing I was going to say in comment is, it's funny how people their careers evolve over time. After 9/11, ad business for me just disappeared, or at least the stuff that I wanted to do quit hiring me. And then I got into software development and teaching and book writing. So, the evolution of a career over time is something to contemplate. But you got to be open to accepting your fate. Number one, accept your fate, and number two, look for something constructive to do. At the moment, I'm pretty much retired, and I'm busier than shit. I'm not making a lot of money, but I'm still just busier than shit. So that's all I was going to say, Don. It's kind of fun. And what part of Arizona are you in again?
I'm in Phoenix.
Okay, so is that kind of blue state or red state in Phoenix?
Purple, probably.
Okay. All right. Well, I know that your president, our ex-president, was there Saturday saying some really goofy shit. So I hope you can survive the political maelstrom that is Arizona.
Basically, stay out of it.
Yeah, let's go back to photography. Rick is asking in the chat, though. He's interested in your comment about finding your niche. How important is that? Is it absolutely necessary to find a niche?
Don't look for it. It'll show up. It's what you love to do the most. You don't find your style. You don't find anything looking forward. You always find it looking back. What do you start, one of the exercises we were talking about earlier, John, is to pull your photographs out and to write a paragraph about your photographs. About a photograph, pull it out. Your favorite photograph, the one you've taken, you like it, write a paragraph. What is it you like about that photograph? What makes you happy about it? Edit down 20 images from all the images you made. What do they have in common? I think you're going to start to see your style. I think you're going to start to see your niche from there. Everybody has, a lot of photographers, me included, I like to shoot everything. I mean, this morning I was out shooting cactus blossoms, and I'm not a landscape or a flower shooter at all, but they're just beautiful. I want to photograph them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not my niche. I wouldn't want to make a career. So look backwards. You'll see what it is that you love to do. Do not try to look forward, because all you can do is limit yourself. You limit, and then you have tunnel vision on what you thought was your niche, and it generally is not what you think it is.
Yeah.
I have
So
a
how much
question both.
yeah.
Sorry,
No, go ahead,
Mr.
Anya.
John and Mr. Donald, from both of you. So, English is not my language. Writing paper is the weakness. I try to work on it, but so I have limit of introducing myself or communicating people. So how do you so is there any classes or the places I can get the training on it, or schools in it, or some photographer actually, if they can photographer work on it, or if it comes to writing paper, or do you hire people?
So what kind of writing are you talking about?
It's like, about your portfolio, about your work and why
Oh,
you're doing
No,
this.
writing an artist statement and the like.
You
Yeah.
don't, I'll tell you what, I write about my work every day. No one's ever seen it. I don't show it. This is not to show anybody. I'm not, I come from an era, and I know it's really scary, but there were times when we did things that we didn't monetize. Now, I don't care, you paint a glass and your friends go, oh, you could sell that on Etsy. Well, no, I just wanted to do it, So I do that just for me. I don't have to show it to anybody. And if you're not comfortable writing, just talk into your phone. Just make a little, 30-second visual. What do you like about that picture? Then find another picture that you see online and ask yourself, what do you like about that picture? Do a little thing on that. You're going to start to pick out the fact, oh, I really like this minimalistic approach, or I really like things that are heavily propped, or I really like landscapes more than something else, or I love tabletop. It'll start to emerge from your experience rather than waking up one morning saying, I'm going to be a food shooter.
So Jim has a question over in the chat about how much importance you place on learning, processing, and editing like Photoshop, Lightroom, and all in today's world. He's somewhat old school purist, going back to getting it right on film, and he's resisted image manipulation beyond minor tweaks.
Well, there's only so much you can get right on film. There was a lot of stuff that I did that got shipped to New York or LA to be retouched and had dye transfer prints redone from it. So, that's the way that goes. I think you have to be able to do basic and a little bit above Photoshop skills. You got to be able to remove a power line, or you need to be able to retouch skin fairly well. But if it's a really high dollar job, and if you're up in a high dollar job, A, you didn't get to the high dollar job overnight. So you probably have learned what you needed to do. And B, you're probably going to hire a retoucher. I don't combine 16 photographs, digital photographs, combine them into one thing. That's not me. I've had jobs where we had to do that, and I sent it off to retoucher to have it done, and the client's just totally fine with it. But you get the jobs that you show. Basically, you get the kind of work that you show. So if you're showing fairly clean, out of the camera, color corrected, etc., if that's what you're showing, it's kind of jobs you're going to get.
I tend to have quite a different frame of reference from most people, because I see photography as an entire process with a number of steps. For the people who say, I just want to get it right in camera, that's like the doctor saying, I'll just use the scalpel to get the appendix out. I don't care about closing them up afterwards. It's all part of the process. And how you expose, if it's film, how you process the film, how you expose the chip, what you do when you get it out afterwards. The people who take a photo and just take it in JPEG and send it out, what they're doing is they're letting some engineer in Japan decide how their image should look. And I refuse to do that. I want my image to look the way I want it to look, so that when I click the shutter, I'm not necessarily seeing what's in front of my lens. I'm seeing what the image is going to look like after I finish the whole process.
That's really interesting, because for me, I've always seen the finished pic. Back in film days, I saw the finished print in my head before the lens got attached to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
It was never a matter of, oh, I hope that came out. Oh, I had no idea, no doubt. There's always room for serendipity, always. But I knew when I was shooting beauty and stuff, I knew frame 26 on roll 3. I knew it. I could see it. I can tell you the exposure, the lens, the camera, the film, and where we were for every photograph I've taken since 1970. I can't tell you her name. I can't.
Her name Raymond?
Can't remember the name, but I can remember what lens it was shot on. I remember the camera. I remember the moment taking the picture. I do. Every single shot that I have, it's not a special thing, but I wanted to know what my pictures were going to look like before they come out. So in digital photography, we have a wide ranging set of possibilities to, there are some people who shoot just little parts and put them all together. There are some people who shoot what you would call straight photography. Whatever it is, your knowledge of Photoshop and stuff should be as much as you need to make the images that you see in your head. If
The thing,
not coming
the
out,
thing that always,
Thank you.
yeah, the thing that always drives me crazy are the people say, "Oh, I want to get it right in camera," just like Ansel Adams did.
yeah,
And,
no.
and they kind of forget. And Ansel wrote 3 books on different aspects of how to manipulate the camera, the negative, and the print. He manipulated everything.
Yep. Yes, he did. And those of you who don't know, Ansel's enlarger had multiple bulbs on the back. So we could turn this bulb off and turn this bulb on and burn and dodge with that. It was amazing. And then Stephen, and then you put the print in the stuff and you pull it out and you put it in your own private selenium toner thing, put it in there, and you got the hot deck towel and you're doing it straight out of camera. I never saw it happen.
Yeah, and we're just doing it in computer instead of in a darkroom now, but we're doing the same thing that the best of the photographers did.
Yep.
And as I said, I refuse to let some engineer in Japan decide what my image is going to look like.
Do you zero your camera out when you get it? Your digital?
What do you mean? Do I zero it out?
I get rid of the default sharpening in it. I zero out the camera.
Well, I shoot everything in raw.
if you're shooting
so
raw,
it-
you don't
yeah.
need to.
Yeah.
Yes, shoot everything in raw. Everything is done by me, not done by the camera.
Yes. And anything that's done by the camera is an adjustment I've made on the camera.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll know what the color temperature is in an area. So rather than depend on the automatic white balance, I will set the color temperature so I don't have to worry about the white balance.
Yes.
But it's not too
I will
different.
say one thing.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Stephen, do you still use a color temperature meter?
I do.
All right, I will say one
I
thing.
used-
I'm about ready to pull into my garage.
Yeah, we'll
But
wait for you.
The thing that
You're
I was
breaking
going
up.
to okay.
Yeah, I use both a color temperature meter and a passport color checker.
Yeah.
I'm a belt and suspenders guy.
But at the same time, I always tell people correct color is not always pleasing color. So be willing to divert from what you get with your meter and your color checker.
Well, life is a lot easier if you know where you're starting.
Starting, yes.
Yeah, my whole approach to Photoshop initially was I wanted Photoshop there to help me do what I did in the darkroom better,
Mhm.
without the smelly chemicals, which I kind of miss now.
I got tired of brown fingernails.
Yeah, that was an issue. Well, I mean, I used to do, my portfolio was all monochrome for about 6 years, all monochrome, but not black and white. I used to shoot Polaroid, instant slide film, and I'd put it in the enlarger to make Cibachromes from it. So I could dial in the color and the color enlarger. So I'd have all these like very slight browns or whatever. And I think of all those years in the darkroom with Cibachrome. I won't make it until, if I make it till Monday, I think it'll be good. That was a lot of stuff. And right on the bottles, it says, don't breathe this stuff. Well, you're in a dark room, for Christ's sake. How do you don't breathe it? Ugh.
Ventilation.
Yeah. Do not inhale.
So Jeff, are you back home? I think he's disconnecting from audio.
Yeah. How many guys have used potassium ferricyanide in the old darkroom days?
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah. First, the most interesting thing is the bottle has this great big skull and crossbones on it. I think the warning was, if you ingest it, call your attorney because there ain't nothing we can do for you. So,
Yeah, Jim's saying he's glad we're all still here.
yeah. Oh yeah.
When I was teaching at RIT in the photochem lab, there were several chemicals that I would only deal with under a hood. If I took them out from outside the hood, they were in a capped bottle.
Yeah.
Well, you were smarter than me, Stephen, so.
Yeah, but he liked
That's only
his
because I had made more
process.
mistakes before.
Along those lines, I remember as a kid, when my parents would use safe and sane fireworks on the 4th of July. I read the side of one of them, and it said, it was transliterated obviously from something, and it said something like light, fuse, and retire quickly.
Yeah, that works. Oh, the nights and the days spent in the dark room. I had a couple of accounts where, like Southwest Airlines would hire a new flight attendant or a new captain or new associate captain. And in those days, they'd come over to the studio, we'd shoot an 8x10 black and white, and then they would order like 800 black and whites of the captain, 850 black and whites of this person. I cannot tell you how much money we made on black and white prints for those that decade. Oh my God, it was just. I had a guy that came in the morning. We didn't have a punch-in clock, but he'd come in at 8 o'clock in the morning. Hey, how you doing, guys? And then he'd go in the dark room. We'd see him at lunch, and he'd come out at 6 o'clock and go home. He was a full-time darkroom assistant that did nothing but process film and make prints.
What did they do with all those prints?
Well, it was their PR package. When the flight attendant was hired, they do a little thing. HR and everybody had to have a picture of her. So we'd make 5x7 and an 8x10, and we were smart. We'd make 2 and always hold 2 in reserve. So when they called back and needed them, because they lost them or whatever, we'd already have them made, and we could charge them for the new ones. Yeah, they just send them out to people and hundreds of different uses. And then that all just basically went away with digital. So
yeah, so Jeff's back and looks like he's outside today. It's a new look.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
To
Or we
follow up
could.
what I was going to say before was that I think a photographer, if you're going to be serious about your craft, has to learn the craft that you need to accomplish your visual goals. So I do think that photographers should learn.
We lost you. Yeah, Jeff, you froze up.
Let me riff on what he said. I absolutely 100% say to young photographers who, 6 months after they get the camera, they go, oh, I'm going to go get a job. And I say, before you can be a photographer, you have to be a photographer. It's like you don't start piano lessons Tuesday morning and start looking for gigs for Saturday night. You should know this. I run into young fashion photographers, and they'll go, yeah, I'm a fashion photographer. And I'll go, oh, are you familiar with the work of, Albert Watson, Arthur Elgort? No. They just follow some girl on YouTube. Learn your craft. Learn what's come before you. All the people that broke open doors and stuff before you visually. Learn your craft. Maybe you'd say to me, well, gee, Don, I can learn my craft, but isn't that like getting a degree? Nobody cares. Yeah, but you should care. You should care. You should know everything about your craft that you possibly can know.
So who are some of your influences, Don?
Oh, let me interrupt for 1 second.
Oh, yeah.
I have to leave. But Don, there in Phoenix is a facility called the Art Resource Center. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I just wanted to make sure you were familiar with it. A friend of mine started it.
Oh, out in Gilbert.
No, it's in Tempe.
In Tempe. Okay.
Yeah, it's a facility that accepts surplus stuff from companies all over the valley. And then if you're an art teacher, you go in and you take whatever you want to use with your class.
Oh, yeah. I know. I just heard of that, Stephen. Just literally heard of it like last week. Well, that's cool.
I think Sherry closed it for the summer, but she'll be opening it again soon. Sherry Zeitlin runs it, and they have like 4,000 or 5,000 square feet of stuff. I mean, you things you can't imagine. But so if you're looking for things to do with projects, she has it there.
Fantastic.
How do they make money?
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and it's probably a 10-minute drive from where you're sitting now.
Stephen, how do they make money?
They don't.
Michael, they have the same thing here in New York, Material for the Arts, exact same thing.
Hey,
Oh, so but
Michael-
they get funded,
Michael,
right?
Michael, you're talking to a bunch of pro photographers. When did making money ever enter into the equation?
Oh, I forgot. Oh, shit, I forgot.
How do you become a millionaire in
so-
photography? Start with 2 million. Yeah, there you go.
So they get funding from the state?
No, they don't get funding from anybody unless somebody donates.
Well, how
Everything
do
is
they,
donated.
How do they pay for the building and the electricity and the?
Hopefully there's enough donations. If not, Sherry pays for it.
So they take monetary donations too, you're saying?
Yes, yes. Most of what they're concerned with is surplus stuff, and things like Shutterfly gives them a huge amount of stuff, but they get more than you can possibly imagine.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, she said one day she got a sample books of wallpaper, and it was wallpaper that was, they weren't huge sheets, but they were big enough that some kid could play with it. But some of these sheets were like $120 a square yard for wallpaper.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to run. I may be able to get back before you're
Okay.
done. I'll try to.
Check back.
Thank you.
So Jim Bracher has some comments over in the comments section. He's unfamiliar with photo schools, but one advantage he loved of anthropology grads and undergrad programs get to hang out with others passionate about the subject and live and breathe the ideas in practice. So that's the one reason he'd think of going back to school for a degree in photos, just to spend time doing that. But that's what we're doing here. And you don't have to pay for this.
And I totally agree with that. There used to be workshops that you could take. I took an Ansel Adams workshop one year, and all that. It was like, I want to say it was a complete week, Sunday through Sunday. That was the week I could have bought an original Ansel Adams Moonrise Hernandez for $1,200. Just didn't have the money. But the thrill of it was being around, 18 and 20 other people who were just as excited about photography as you could be. And that immersion is incredible. I think there's some of that still available in the Santa Fe workshops, some of that stuff. But sometimes you got to find it and make it happen yourself. It's interesting to me that the younger photographers, those 40 and younger coming up, don't do that much anymore. It's very much a lone cowboy thing. At least it is in my city, and the cities that are around me that I know of. Very much, everybody's alone. There isn't that camaraderie. My studio is 3,200 square feet, and there were people there every single hour of the day. We had models dropping by, art directors dropping by, et cetera, et cetera. If you're going to go to photo school, that was Jim that asked that question?
Yes.
John?
Yeah. Jim Bracher.
If you're going to go to photo school, hang out with the art directors. They're the people who are going to hire you.
I almost really won't. I mean, there's this fantasy of going back, but I spent a lot of time in school doing anthropology and graded homework and stuff. And that changes your perspective on degree programs. But that experience of hanging out with people who are, like you said, excited and thrilled and just doing this thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I miss. Is
Yeah.
And years ago, there was a photo group I hung out with. We were like 8 of us, I think. A very small review and critique group. And again, it was just like you go in with your photo and they go, hey, why did you make that shot? And you have to explain why you made that shot and what you saw. And it was really challenging and great. And so for the person who's considering going off to school, it's horribly expensive these days, which is horribly unfair because that you come out of school with this huge debt, but you get an experience that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Yeah,
Jim, one of the things that I would mention, and what is really blossomed the last couple of years is mentorship. find somebody whose work you like and ask them or pay them to be a mentor. You can learn an awful lot when you work one-on-one with somebody that cares about your development and will actually work to help you kind of develop your style and vision. One-on-one mentorship, I think might be something that you'd want to look into.
I really thought about that, and it's interesting that my background is anthropology, which is very much a academic disciple thing. So you go into an academic department, and that's where you learn how to be an anthropologist. Whereas historically, in photography, you used to be an apprentice program. You maybe get some skills with the camera from a degree program, but then you went and you assisted somebody, and then you assisted someone else, then you assisted maybe someone else, and maybe you just stayed as an assistant, or you would build your network, build your niche, and then launch yourself as a photographer, but having gone through what was effectively an apprenticeship program. And it seems like we've kind of lost that a little bit.
No, we've lost it a lot, Jim, not a little bit. We've lost it a lot. I had my studio, I had 7 full-time employees. There's not a studio in Phoenix that has more than 1 full-time employee now. Digital changed all of that, as far as I can see.
Because back in the day, you'd have your first assistant, you had one set of responsibilities.
Yeah.
Second and third assistants, you had like, the third assistant was like, go get coffee, make sure these boxes get on the truck. Eventually, you'll work your way up to telling the third assistant what to do. But yeah, I mean, it's, as much as I love the internet, it has changed photography, and not entirely for the better.
No, and I'm, because we're coming from it from there, right? We're coming from what we had. But remember, if you talk to the 24-year-olds to 30-year-olds, they love it the way it is. They never had what we had. And so I always caution, be very careful when we talk about the good old days, because our good old days are they're gone, right? All we have is today. Today is those kids' good old days. It's a kind of a cycle. Most creative people hit their peak between like 35 and about 55. When you really think of and you look at all so many creative people out there. Remember Joni Mitchell's Hejira album, one of the best albums ever done in the world, right? And then who can remember her the next one? It was Don Juan's Reckless Daughter. Who can remember the next one? Nobody but Mingus. You know, she got up and there's this creative time. And we as creative creators, we kind of live there. You know, we kind of live when we were 45. Things have moved on. We can think they're wrong to move on, but we're wrong. They just move. They have nothing to do with right or wrong. It just is what it is. And we just have to try really hard to stay up with what we have instead of hoping for never going back. Never going back. So
the other thing I'll say about the good old days, a lot of times those good old days weren't so damn good. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of...
We don't remember that, Jeff.
Well, I remember the bad stuff as well as the good stuff.
Yeah.
I miss big budgets. I miss good art directors. I miss a lot of the stuff that we don't have that much anymore. I mean, there's still good people. There's still good photographers working commercially. There's still good art directors hiring them. There's still good work being done. But the use of that, I mean, you know, take a look at any of the major national magazines. I get the New Yorker and I get the one that, God, now I can't remember the name of the fucking magazine that I get. But all of those magazines, the print version of the magazines, you know, it's very diminutive in size. And there just aren't the big national ad campaigns in print that there used to be. And that will never come back.
But even in television and the like, there's not there. I mean, if you look at broadcast television, it's the same. What used to be infomercial, overnight infomercials are what fills the time now. There's no big advertisers anymore.
You know, it depends on the area. Everybody's trying to describe photography. It's such a huge area. I think of some people here in New York, like Sarah Silver, who shoots beauty. And the stuff she does is just mind blowing, and she gets big budgets and big jobs. A lot of it now also includes video that she has to do with it, but very creative stuff, really cutting edge, just fun stuff. I mean, and the other thing too about ageism, when I got to New York in the 70s, everybody told me, oh, you should have been here in the 60s. It was so good. We had the budgets. It was so creative. And in the 80s, everybody was telling everybody, oh, you should have been here in the 70s. It was so good. And that kept going on every decade. It's when you're coming in and you're excited about it and you're doing the work, it's a great time.
That's right.
I mean,
absolutely right. It's right now. We have to be right now. I mean, we've seen the death of photography, right? Remember when Kodak came out with the brownie, mom would take the picture and send it to Kodak?
Yeah, you press the button.
That was the death of photography, right? Putting a meter in the camera, that was the death of photography. You know, autofocus, death of photography. Photography's died a number of times and we're still here. You know, and some of those big budget jobs, I mean, here in Phoenix, they're hard to come by, but yet everybody's doing well. They're just doing more jobs, which they can do because it's digital.
How do you know somebody's doing well?
You know, I know Paul Marco in Phoenix, a good friend of mine. I don't know if you know.
I know Paul.
I go shooting together. Paul, you know, they've been sending him to Europe. He just did a job here in New York in March, just as COVID was lightening up. That he was doing, I forgot the company, but he's been doing some really good jobs, and he does editorial still for Arizona Highways. I don't know if you saw, they're doing a hardcover book of his father's pictures in Arizona.
Oh,
Pictures
cool.
that he shot that was grip and grin shots.
Yeah,
didn't mean anything, but now you look at them and they're fantastic. He sent me one file of an accordion school in Phoenix that I just laugh every time I look at it. But even simple shots in restaurants and places, the clothes and other things now are just a lot more valuable.
And do you know what's really, and I use Paul Marco as an example because I know Paul. What's really interesting, and I show photographers is Paul is a very busy photographer. Paul has always been a busy photographer. Things are up, things are down. Paul's steady. The reason is he markets himself. Now you might be surprised. I don't think Paul has an Instagram. I don't think Paul has a Facebook page.
He does Facebook quite a bit, and that's actually that generated the book with Arizona Highways, even though he shoots for them.
Yeah.
When we saw the stuff he was posting, they ran like a 12 or 14 page spread in an issue just a couple issues ago.
Yeah, May, I think. No, April. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're doing a hardcover book, and that was a result of putting himself out there on Facebook of all things, which is not the best forum, but it just shows that, like you've been saying, you do a variety of things. You put your work out there. You contact people. You don't wait for the phone to ring.
Yeah, if you wait, it's over. Photographers say, which social media should I be on? And I say, be on every social media you want, but don't depend on social media to get your work for you. That's something you have to do. You got to market yourself. Working hard at selling ourselves is the number one thing we have to do. These days, it's fascinating because we don't have those multi-day shots as much as we used to, where, you know, like catalog days, we get hired and shoot for 3 weeks for a catalog. Those don't come by as much for 3 weeks anymore because you can really do it in, you know, 8 days or 7 days or even 5 days. Because of digital shoot and process instead of darkroom and recovering film, etc. So
yeah, I'm getting a couple of comments from over on Facebook. First from Marianne. Corinna Alavecchio says hi to you.
Hey.
She's over watching us on Facebook, I think.
Oh.
And Charlie Gibson
Hi,
there is saying
Frankie.
photography is now defined by your mobile phone. Everyone's a photographer. But that's sort of what they said in the 30s and 40s when the Leicas came out.
Yeah, but I love that everybody's a photographer.
Yeah.
That's great. That's fantastic. But that's like saying everybody's a writer. You know, I mean, they taught us to write in high school. I don't think Stephen King is sitting around going, oh my God, they're teaching kids how to write. No, there's a writer and then there's a writer. Everybody's a photographer. Great. That doesn't have anything to do with what I do. Has nothing to do with what I do.
Right.
Not
You're competing
everybody's
with yourself.
creative. It's called creativity.
Yeah.
And you can't teach creativity. It's an individual thing.
I think everybody has creativity in them. I think the hardest thing to do is to have them release it. It's
To draw it out or survive past being 12.
yeah. Well, first thing we do with our kids,
Ian, I couldn't hear
kindergarten,
you.
line them up and put them in desks. It's like, oh, come on. We beat it out of them forever. We're told, only show your best stuff. Never, where everybody's afraid to put their bad stuff up because, and so you just never step on the floor. If you're afraid of dancing, you'd never take a step out.
That's me. But Ian, you were saying something?
I've seen many photographers out there who were putting themselves out as photographers, and they do get a little work here and there, and they have no creativity whatsoever. They do not see a photo. It's just like it's just like they push the button on a camera and they have no idea what they're creating. It's just horrible. I've seen just some horrible stuff.
But it's interesting because back in the 70s and 80s, here in Phoenix, if you could operate a view camera, if you knew how to tilt and swing and you could get that box in focus, you could get jobs. Because that's all they wanted. They just wanted the damn box to be in focus. They wanted the damn unit to be in focus. You had to tilt and swing and all that stuff. That's all gone. And so those unimaginative technicians, they lost. You still have to have some imagination to move through where we are, especially today. A vision, a point of view, a way of seeing that's hopefully a little bit different than everybody else.
How many of us that's on this forum right now went through an art class in high school? Did they teach you about art? I went. I mean, I graduated high school in '62. So, I mean, I remember having an art class in grammar school. They don't teach you. They don't tell you.
You remember painting on cave walls. I mean,
Michael, you just made your point about how it doesn't help.
It's always pick on Mueller time.
That's right.
I had a lot of weird ideas in our society about creativity. When I was a kid, there were like special kids who were artists who were the artistic ones. I was a science nerd. I was not supposed to be artistic. Now, as we learn, artistic scientists do a lot better work than non-artistic scientists. But I never thought I could be an artist, and it took me until in my 50s to pick up a camera and try to be creative with it, as opposed to it's in focus, it's well exposed, it is technically okay. And it was because friends said, look, you can't actually be creative. I said, no, it's you guys. But it took me a long time, and I still struggle with that. So for students in school who are struggling with that, I have enormous sympathy, because there's this wonderful faculty that's not being developed that a lot of the folks here, you live it and you breathe it, and I'm enormously glad and also kind of jealous. And I'll shut up now.
So how many of us became?
Something happened. You
John,
cut off.
What's that?
John, what did you say?
Am I frozen?
John.
No,
John,
you're back.
repeat that.
For a moment, your audio dropped. Can you repeat what you said?
My audio dropped. I've just said
That
how
was
many of us became photographers because we couldn't draw or paint.
Actually, that happened to me. I've been taking art lessons since I was in grade school. My mother used to send me to the Springfield Art Association every Saturday, and it was all kinds of different art. But I got all the way to college, and I saw a black kid from Chicago take a big pen and a piece of white paper and just do these unbelievable, remarkable renderings. And it just pissed me off because all the art lessons and stuff, I couldn't fucking draw. I could make three-dimensional objects, I could do sculpture, but what I wanted to do was be an illustrator. And and I couldn't draw. So I ended up being the only guy in my theater class that had a 35mm camera, and I shot the dress rehearsal of the play One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I was taking a theater class at Illinois State, and it was sitting up there telling everybody what to do, taking pictures, telling the lighting director what lighting cue to bring up, telling the actors where to move around. I'm thinking, fuck, I don't have to draw. I can just tell everybody to do what I want them to do. And that's what got me into photography. But as it relates to creativity, there is craft and technique that you can teach. You can also teach somebody to be more creative. You can't teach creativity necessarily per se, but you can get people to let go of their resistance or fear of being creative. And that's what it is. A lot of people, I've got a new book that Karen recommended, Art and Fear, if you see this.
That's a good book.
And it's basically, you know, people are a lot more creative than they let themselves be, because there's a general overall fear of being creative. And it goes back actually to your initial socialization. When you're a kid, you're creative because you don't know any better. But when you're trying to fit in with a group and you're trying to conform and not stick out from the crowd, that is contra-creative, and you develop a fear of being different from others. And boy, as a photographer, one of the things that early in my career, I realized that, damn, what I want to be is different than everybody else. When I took an ad in the Black Book, I didn't want my ad in the Black Book to look at like everybody else's ad in the Black Book. I wanted it to look different. And a lot of times that's a risk, but that's, again, being willing to take a risk and step forward and being, you know, above the crowd or different, or, you know, if everybody is going left, I'm going to go right.
Well, look at our education system. If you're in a first grade class and you say, who wants to go to the board and write this stuff down? All the hands go up. All the little kids want to go up to the board, right? Try that in a sophomore English class. Nobody, it's not going to happen. So something is going on there. I came to photography a little bit different. I could draw pretty well. I was doing designs for hot rodders here. Do you remember Ed Big Daddy Roth?
Roth, yes.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't everyone?
I was an Ed Big Daddy Roth aficionado, and I could pretty well copy what he did, but then I had my own little characters. So I was doing a lot of that, but I was also playing drums in a band. And we got a great gig. We had to travel around. We got to go all around the country playing in some stupid restaurant. I can't even remember what it is. We'd play gigs, and we'd show up at 8 o'clock and we'd play till midnight, or we'd show up at 9 and play till 1. And then we go back to the hotels. Let me tell you, when people say, oh, musicians do drugs, let me tell you, there's a reason for it. Massive amounts of doing nothing, right? Well, the guitar player could sit there and work on his licks, and the bass player could do that. It was really tough for me to convince the hotel that I should have my 10-piece drum set brought up so I could practice my drums in the room. That didn't happen. So I had to go walking around, and in my wanders, I remember playing with cameras with my dad when I was a kid. And I picked up a Nikon and a 43 to 86 millimeter zoom, the worst lens Nikon ever made in their entire existence. And I walked around making photographs. And then it turned from me dreading those days off to loving those days off, as I just walk around and I'd get the film, I'd send it to my dad, he'd process it, and the whole bit. We were on tour for 9 months. I was back in Phoenix maybe 3 days of those 9 months. And also, by the way, I want to share one thing. How much could your life change on a haircut? Anybody want to guess how much your life could change on a haircut? Well, I was a pretty good drummer, and I could read music as a drummer. And a band here in town, their drummer had to go back east because his mom was very sick. And they called me up and said, would you come and sit in the band? And at the time I had a ponytail down the middle of my ass, and this was a country western band, and they had, very short haircuts, the whole bit. And I sat in and I played, and it was a great experience. It was country western music. And the guy came up, the leader of the band, and he said, "We'd really like you to stick around, but you're gonna have to get your hair cut. We'll make you a member of the band." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, Mr. Waylon Jennings, I don't think I'm gonna get a haircut."
Here we are.
Well, I'm still blaming it on Waylon because he didn't say to me, "Don, we're gonna, eventually move to Austin and get really famous and shit."
You know who got the job instead? Ian.
Yeah, I had a big ponytail. Yeah. Right. But my pivotal point came when I becoming a photographer by the simple decision to make a business card. So one day I wasn't a professional photographer, and when the business cards came, I was.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yep. Well, they say there's three motivators in life: sex, money, and power, right? I've always added
only one. So.
I've always added sheer terror to that. Sheer terror is very motivational as well. So
very cool. Well, does anyone else have any final questions for Donald? Comments?
I wonder if you had to do it, if you had to start your career today, what would you do?
If I had to start in today's climate?
Yeah.
And I was a younger person?
Yeah.
Adventure photography. Hands
down. Say that again?
Adventure photography, hands
down.
Down.
What does that mean?
Mountain climbing, kayaking, leisure sports.
Jimmy Chin.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's where I'd go.
Cool. Let's see, over Charlie Gibson was saying there are a lot of drummer photographers, but there's a great explanation by Donald Tatey about that. Anyway, we all have a little bit of musical background here. There are a bunch of us photographers. No, not Ian.
I can't even play the radio.
Yeah, here in Phoenix, we've got a lot of our best photographers here are also musicians. Rick Gale is a drummer as well. A lot of really good talented people. Ansel Adams was a concert level pianist.
Yep.
I used to play the clarinet.
There you go.
I played the clarinet for 5th grade, but it never went past that.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a photographer.
Could have been a New York pawn shop, a silver one instead of a black clarinet, a metal clarinet.
No.
There's a photographer. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He teaches in Texas and he shoots horses. He shot a book called Equus. Oh crap!
I don't know.
And you'd know him if I could remember his name. I feel like an idiot.
I'm in Texas. I should know who it is.
Yeah, black and white photographer. He shot a lot of horses. He does a lot of real people kind of stuff, documentary stuff. Anyway, he came to Phoenix and brought his guitar, and they did an ASMP meeting. And then afterwards, we all jammed. Rick had his drums there. I brought my keyboard over, and we played music for like 4 hours. That was a real blast. I had no idea some of my fellow photographers in Phoenix were that musical, but God, we played 3 sets. It's like, you guys know Georgia key of F? No, I know it in B flat. All right, we'll do it in B flat. It's like,
so why are trumpets B flat instruments?
What's that?
Why is a trumpet a B flat instrument?
I have no idea.
So they think they're really hitting a high C.
Okay.
In Texas, there's a pickup band of photographers in Texas PPA, and the name of it is Bad Exposure. It's people like Gabriel Alonso and Tony Corbell and Larry Losi are in it, if you know any of them.
Oh.
Well, actually, Corbell was on here a while ago.
Yeah, Jack, you were saying something?
No, I looked up Equus real quick. Now, what was it? Just in case, Tim Flatch?
No.
Well, there's another book called Equus.
Yep.
So before we go, Don, what's your next motorcycle trip?
I leave Wednesday. All that I've booked right now is I'm going to get on the bike and I'm going to ride like I'm 15. Go to Kanab first night, Wells Nevada the second night. And by the way, for those of you guys who don't know, Nevada is an absolutely stunning state. Once you're 60 miles north of Vegas, my God, it's the most mountainous state in the Union. More mountains there than anywhere else. It's all high desert, so it's cool, 80 degrees. So I'm gonna get to Wells, and then from Wells, I'm going to Riggins, Idaho, where I'll finally get off the bike a little bit. That's like 400 and plus miles a day. And then I'm just gonna try to figure out what to do up there. It's gonna depend on the smoke from the wildfires in Oregon.
So do you just ride by yourself or with someone else?
I 100% ride by myself. That's the whole idea. I get on the bike and I don't, there's days go by, John, I don't speak. I think, I write, I make, you know, little video and stuff I'm constantly doing, but it's decompression time for me.
Cool.
And yeah, I
That's
can't
one
ride with
thing
anybody else because they, you know, then you have to deal with someone else's baggage.
That's one thing I
Jeff.
miss about riding my motorcycle. I kind of gave it up a couple of years ago, but I used to love to go out west, and I figured that it wasn't really fun riding till I hit Denver. But
Yeah.
actually, back roads 50. One of the things that I wanted to do is I love US 50.
Yep.
And I've done 50 from Kansas all the way to California on and off. I haven't done just 50, but that's a road that I'd love to take. What's your current bike?
I have a Kawasaki Nomad 1600.
Oh, rice burner.
Big bike.
Big motorcycle.
Yeah, well, I used to ride a R1100 GS BMW with big old saddlebags. It was amazing how much shit that I could get on the bike. Although in the end, it was not enough photographic space. Although I now travel with a RX 100, which is actually a really good little travel camera. But well, keep the sunny side up, Don.
Thank you.
Enjoy. 400 miles is about all you really want to do. I'd like to stop an hour before sunset because, well, first of all, I'd like to find someplace.
I don't like to ride at night.
No.
And in the West, there's too many deer.
Yeah.
I'm not nearly as worried about somebody else in a car as I am about deer, because I've had 2 close encounters with deer. That's too many.
The other thing is Sunday morning on Indian reservations, that can be scary because there's a lot of drunk drivers, people trying to get home.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to share one other thing since we've got a lot of guys from my area here. One of the biggest things I miss from film photography is formats. Does anyone else miss that? Because I absolutely miss formats. I love looking down into a camera for a certain kind of photograph. And when someone would come to me with an assignment and they would talk about it, it would I'd go, oh, I got to shoot that on 4x5, or that's an 8x10 shot, or that's medium format. That's something I really, really miss.
Yeah, I mean,
I like, I still shoot film occasionally. I miss it. I like the sound of winding the film, just the tactile feel of it. I like just getting it back and looking at it, whether it be on a light box or just print. I enjoy film. Something about it I've always loved, and I still try to shoot as much as I can on film. I mean, up until just a few years ago, I was still a big film shooter. I had 400 or 500 rolls of film on hand at all times.
Yeah, I wish that we had that format availability in digital.
For me, it's Polaroid 55 is what I wish I
Oh
still
yeah,
had.
God yes. Yeah, I have a whole portfolio. I have an entire portfolio of nothing but 55. Yeah, one of my absolute favorite films. That and the instant Polapan, the black and white 35.
The 35 millimeter one.
Yeah, oh God, I shot that. I shot thousands of rolls of it.
Very cool. Well, thank you all. It's been a lot of fun today.
Thanks for having me. And boy, I got to talk to a lot of people that have always been heroes. I see Jack and Stephen and Jeff and You know, people that these are names I've known for a long time.
Cool.
See, out here in Phoenix, we just look at your workbook stuff and go, oh God, I wish we could shoot like that.
And let's say thank you to Donald, and then I'll stop the recording.
Thank you, Don.